Okay, I got to be lucky last. Thanks for all making it to the end. It means I got to stay relatively sober as well. So, all right. So I want to talk about Freo and revitalisation, and the challenge of doing that and not making it just that sense of gentrifying a place and keeping it a bit weird and learning to love seagulls, which I'll explain in a moment. But looking at that picture, you kind of get that sense. A lot of people think Freo is really vibrant and fantastic, and what's the problem? But there's plenty of parts of Freo which are kind of the other end of that spectrum, and Westgate Mall is probably there. In fact, I really wish that I'd had the Prosh. You want to see Prosh this week? We had that. In fact, I'll pass it around. Which has a very funny piece on using Fremantle as a set for a post-apocalyptic movie because there's nobody there, and that's partly because there's that sense in Freo that's a photo from 1972, the year I was born, and it's our population then is actually exactly the same as it was when I became mayor 4.5 years ago, which I think is pretty extraordinary. And when you kind of jump forward, it kind of looks the same, weirdly enough. And that's, I guess, one of those things. And the real problem with that is that those parts, plenty of parts of Freo that just haven't had any investment, and in fact, where no people live and no people work anymore, and that's actually causing part of that problem. So that's the great challenge. And I guess with the council, we had this great challenge of saying, well, how can we get more people living in Freo? There's an amazing number, which I like to repeat often, which is about how many people live in the heart of Freo. And it's remarkably low. It's about 830 people. Isn't that extraordinary? I mean, in the middle of a city centre, that's all you have. So our aim is to get about 6,000 residents living in the middle of Freo. And also, in these parts of Freo, which are the ugly non-heritage parts, that Target, Myer, Westgate Mall area, increasing the heights in those areas so we can get thousands of more people living and working in those areas whilst leaving the beautiful West End intact and relatively alone. So that's been part of our plan, and as a result of that, simple thing, about $1 billion of new investment have started to flow through in the last few years. So I'm just going to give you a quick couple of snapshots. I like this one because I used to be a member. Who want to be a member of the Fremantle Club here? Yes, hey, good work. Very kind of amusing. If you get over the kind of the stale smoke smell, it's kind of inhabits, but it's actually become a pretty funky hotel. And the other end of the spectrum is one that's about to start in a couple of months, which I find quite strange, which is Doubletree Hilton going down next to Clancy's. Now, it's that worst end of town, right next to Westgate Mall, but it's actually really exciting that you actually got the Hilton kind of recognising that part of Freo actually could work really well. And it kind of looks like that car park at the moment. This project's a really, really exciting one because you'll agree that we've got these amazing wool stores all across Freo that just aren't being used other than for storing stuff or for seagulls to live in. And actually, you turning those into apartments. This one's kicked off, stage 1 kicked off, which was actually a whole bunch, about 58 affordable apartments, and stage 2 shall kick off soon. And of course, everyone probably here has been to Bread and Common. It's already hard to imagine, isn't it, that it used to be only a year ago a mechanic's shop. And for me, I really like this because it's about, I guess, bringing back some quality, but has that real kind of Freo vibe about it. I think they've done a really great job around actually bringing some of that real sense of, I think it's got a really good style about it. And I guess that's the kind of things that we want to see, having that uniqueness. Cliff Street, down the end of Freo in the West End. The Mediterranean Shipping Company's moving their head office there, which is, again, another really, I think, quite a tasteful way of starting to insert into the heart of Freo some new development. And this is the biggest one. This is the joint venture that the City of Freo is doing with Serona Capital. Kerry Hill Architects just won the international design competition with that design down the bottom there, and it's a $220 million redevelopment of the Myer building and all the buildings around it. There's no doubt that part of Freo's been pretty sad. In fact, the Myer building there, without the Myer bit now, is still looking like that. I actually like that building, but I think there's only 4 of us in WA who do. So it's going to be replaced with something that kind of looks a little bit more like that. And I think that, and I guess that's a good thing. But one of the key things I wanted to say is that buildings alone aren't going to do it, and that revitalisation, that's really important, that new stuff happening, but for me, it's actually about what happens inside the buildings and the spaces between the buildings that matters just as much. And taking the Myer building as an example, the stuff that we've seen happening with Mini 6160 and actually capturing what I think is great about Fremantle, having local people producing really great, funky things and selling them and actually doing something really interesting in that space has been really exciting. As have, someone used the term urban lounge room earlier today, which I think is a fantastic term again, creating great public spaces. Because it's only through those that we actually can create community, where people can kind of come together and mix and play. And the Youth Plaza is opening this weekend, if you want to come down for a skate, on Sunday morning. And it's those kind of places that really matter. And those spaces between buildings, which I think street art plays a really important role. The other thing we're doing this weekend is the top left corner is a temporary art exhibition is opening this weekend as well, where you have some crazy things like that. Could be the first demolition of the Mayor building, but it's not really. Affordable housing is the other really key element. There's no point us kind of revitalising just to price everybody in this room out of the market, which is a real danger. So one of the really key things we've been working on is how we make sure we get that diversity and mandating that, including the granny flats without grannies, the small dwellings that you can do without planning approval, to diverse and affordable housing across Freo. And then, of course, sustainability. And at the heart of that is about transport, getting us out of our cars, getting us onto our bikes, with or without helmets, and of course, onto things like light rail, actually planning for a low carbon future that actually has a real urban feel to it. Next week, of course, street art starts, and it is that sense of festivals, of events that also that I think does create a really unique space and the kind of the vibrant place that I want to live in. You're not going to create vibrancy through festivals alone, but there's no doubt when they celebrate the best of places and best of arts as well, I think it is really exciting. So I reckon if we can kind of keep Freo, we can revitalise it and keep it weird at the same time. And I reckon then, a few seagulls in the mix kind of make for a good city nevertheless. So thank you.